Hey guys, welcome back. Now I have the three front pieces of the fabric here. I've cut the lining the same way and I've interfaced all of them with my fusible interfacing we normally call hairstay here. So I'm going to sew the seam lines together now by 1/2 inch. I will do the same for the lining. Right here I have the back fabric pieces and I've also reinforced it with the fusible interfacing. And I have the lining the same way, okay, done the same way. I'll be coupling the pieces together by the allowances. You can see I notched the dot points. So side, the center, side, center, okay. So I'm coupling the seam lines with 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and we'll continue from there. We'll do the same to the lining. Then we'll continue from there. So I have the front fabric here sewn, as you can see, and this is the lining. As you can see, I did mark the lines for the bone channels because my boning goes on the lining. So I'll go ahead and sew bias strips on the lining, on the lines for inserting our boning, okay? For inserting our boning. So here is the back fabric as well. You can see I have the line over there. I'm going to draw lines for boning as well, and I'll go ahead and couple the sides of the front and back together. Okay, so I will have the sides of the front and back coupled together. Okay, and I'll proceed next. Yeah, let me do that first. Hey guys, welcome back to class. So you can see I have coupled the back and the front together. Now here I have lines drawn because I want to use the decorative stitches on the fabric. So I'm going to be using a sewable boning together with the fabric strip. It's going to be black color. So I've done one side, the line at the center. This I want a crisscross design, then the one coming at the side, then the back lines. Okay, so I will just fold it into two in order to replicate the lines I have here on this other side. So I'll fold it into two and transfer the lines. Okay, so I'll do that by hitting it this way or pressing with iron first. Okay. Hey guys, so this is what we have currently. Okay, this is what we have currently. I went ahead to create bias strip. Okay, you can see them here, 1 inch. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I created this. So then I have this wrapped, this regeling boning wrapped with fabric as well. So I'm just going to be sewing it right at the edge here to cover it up. So let's go to the sewing machine so I can show you how I did it. So this is also going to be on all the lines. All right, so let's go to the sewing machine. So I folded the fabric strip into two. Okay, I folded the edges just like I want to make a tape. Okay, so I went ahead to sew it together to conceal the rough edges. That's what I'll be using as that crisscross design you saw earlier. Here's me showing you the result of the sewing I've just made of the tape. Make sure yours is as neat as this as well. Okay, now I went ahead to position the tape. Okay, it is important that you mark out the pattern you want to create. You can see I have the star lines made, you know, the crisscross design. I have it chalked already on my fabric before I went ahead to start sewing. So
Yeah, so that's that. So I ensure that the fabric tape did not get to the cup line, so that when I'm placing the one with boning, it doesn't get so bulky. Okay, so and ensure that your seam line is, you know, pressed open. It is important to avoid bulk. So I just went ahead to sew it right at the edge. Okay, so just watch how I'm going to do the placement, okay, all through. Your stitches really have to be neat, because you know it's a top stitch, it's going to be visible. So if your stitches are not neat yet, you need to go and perfect that before you get to this level. Okay, yeah, so that's it. So I'm just going to leave the video playing so you see the techniques I use in getting a perfect crisscross design. Then, you know, we'll proceed from there. Next, I went ahead to fix the edges with the Regilene boning wrapped with the fabric. Okay, so this is how I prepare that. You place the convex part on the right side of the fabric you want to use. Okay, you must have cut that like this, and then just stitch it right at the edge, and then you wrap it around it. Okay, once you wrap it around, okay, you go ahead and stitch again. So make sure that your stitches is just very tiny at the edge. Okay, then after which I went ahead to trim off the excess so it doesn't, you know, show on the other side after stitching on the fabric. So after doing that, I placed it right at the edge of the crisscross design and ensuring that it covers the edges. Okay, so we literally used it to design and also finish the edges of the crisscross design. So then I stitch right on top, right at the edge basically. So you stitch both sides. Then I went ahead and repeat the same thing for the other side as well. Make sure that your boning doesn't get to the edge of the cup or the cup space, yeah, so that when you're fixing the cup it's not be difficult. Okay, yeah, so when I started stitching the Regilene boning on the fabric, I ensure that there is space, the fabric has space upward before I started stitching. Next, I decided to create a facing with the black crepe fabric. I didn't plan that initially, and that's why you can see that I am just creating the pattern from the fabric here. So I just placed the center back of the fabric on the paper and I traced out the edge by the allowance I needed. I did 2 inches, then I added extra allowance for folding. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting this with the crepe fabric, the black crepe, just to create design and also serve as my lacing bar at the same time. So I labeled the pattern paper so I don't mix it up. So I went ahead to cut 2 pieces of it and I reinforced it with Modesty. I pressed the edge by 1/2 inch. Okay, then I stitch it right on top of the fabric. You can decide to plan this from the beginning and just create a pattern so that place will have joining instead of the top stitch I am doing right now, or you can do it this way as well, whichever one is more suitable for you. Okay, right here I have the lining. You can see I've sewn the bone channels. I use bias tape. Okay, you can use any fabric, or I know I like to use the bias tape because it has been cut that way. And I inserted the sewable boning, which is also the regular boning. You can use plastic boning as well. And this is the main fabric. Look at what it looks like. I'm really happy for the choice of me choosing to design it this way. Basically, I wouldn't have loved it if I left it plain. So that was a last minute decision and I really love it. So next I am going to go ahead to sew the cup I have prepared on each of the main fabric and the lining as well. Then we'll continue from there. So these are the bra cups. Okay, the one we prepared from our last video. I'm going to link it up again if you have not seen how I created this bra cup. And I want to get the lining, so I'm going to be using a similar bra cup size to get the lining. So I flip it to the wrong side because of course that's meant to be the wrong side. Yes, so I'm going to be working with my masking tape. I just layered it and overlapped the next one and the next one and overlapped the next one again until I was done wrapping the whole thing up. Okay, since I didn't create my bra cup from the pattern paper, I used the ready-made bra cup. It's just best I create the pattern for the lining from it as well. So I went ahead to do the wrapping. You wrap across and then you wrap along and across and along and across. Yeah, so that's just the point. So yeah, you can see I'm crossing it now. Make sure that you cross everything closely so that by the time you're pulling it out, it doesn't disperse. So as I was done with wrapping, I went ahead to shape it. So you just draw the pattern you want. So I'm just showing you here in case you want to get 3 pieces cup, this is exactly what you're going to do. But at the end of the day, I made it, I think I made it 3 pieces. I was thinking I made it 2 pieces at the end of the day. So yeah, I ended up making 3 pieces. Yeah, you can do 2 pieces as well. So then I labeled it. It is very, very important. So the arrow I drew on it indicated that that is the bust point, so that when I'm transferring it to fabric, I'll be able to notch. Okay, yeah, so I've transferred it to the fabric. Now I want to couple the cup itself with the main fabric. So I added wording ST first. That's the lining now I'm showing you. I added ST, I added wording, soft wording, yes, because I want it to look a bit firm. I don't want it to just be so soft and all of that. I need some structure in it. Yeah, if you want, you can decide to add boning to structure it. There is one of my video where I showed you how you can structure your cup with boning. I'm going to link it up there. Yeah, so this is me using a different method here. So remember that our bra cup already has allowance of 1/4 inch on its own, so I decided to reduce the edge of the fabric because it was quite excess. I haven't shaped it before, so I decided to shape it so that it can add up to the allowance that I will use to couple it together with the fabric. So I shaped the upper part as well to remain 1/2 inch. Now it's time to couple our bra cups together. I went ahead to sew the lining. Okay, make sure you stitch on the same line 2 times and then trim off the seam allowance to the barest minimum. This is one of my sewing secrets here. I do this in order to reduce bulk. Okay, and yeah, so that's that. That is number 2 and 3 cup right there. Then number 1 goes on top of it, and I went ahead to stitch. So I repeated the same thing, stitched twice and trimmed off the seam allowance. There's another way you can couple this bra cup together. Okay, you can decide not to add sewing allowances to that part I was joining. You just work with your zigzag sewing machine to couple them together. Okay, and then you can seal it up with a bias tape. So yeah, so now I went ahead to sew the main bra cup onto the main fabric. Make sure you pin. It is important because I hate to see pleats on bra cup, you know, all those raw finishing. It's not nice. It's not nice for your brand. Make sure you maintain perfection, even though you can't be 100% perfect, but try as much as possible to make neat finishing a goal. Okay, so always use your pin. It is not for beginners, it's for anyone who wants to get a perfect finishing. So, and yes, did you notice what I did here earlier? I notched the cup part of the main fabric. That's because, let's say you're fixing, I always like the curved part of my cup, you know, that cut out part, to be a bit smaller than normal, because if it's too wide, it won't be adjustable. That's when you start having pleats. But if it is smaller, you will have that perfect finish. So what I just do is I just create tiny notches rather. So once I create those tiny notches, it's kind of like widen it and allow the cup to sit perfectly in it and without any form of pleat or gather. So it's just come out very, very nice. So that's another sewing secret, you know, leaking out to you guys. So yeah, and that's it. See, look at what it looks like. Very perfect, very, very perfect. So I did the sewing on the lining as well, and it is time for me to fix the yoke on the main fabric before I now turn it with the lining. So you can see here I actually have cut both the front and back yoke, and together with the sleeve as well. Okay, and I cut tool knit, normal tool knit. I use a chantilly lace and then a tool knit. You can see me holding the tool here to line it up because I don't want to leave the neckline, you know, just like that, and I didn't want to use bias tape, so I needed it to have a seamless finishing. So I went ahead to use my tool knit to turn it. Yeah, and that's only for the yoke. Yeah, so I did that only for the yoke, front and back yoke. I didn't line the sleeve, but if you want both the yoke and the sleeve to have the same tone, you know, when you're done, you can as well line the sleeve as well, but I didn't do that here. So after stitching, I reduced the seam. I always don't like to see bulky seam on, you know, see-through fabric, so I reduced it and turned it to the right side, and I went ahead to hold it down with pin. I needed it stable. Yeah, so then I stitched the armhole parts together without turning it because of course I'm fixing sleeve. Repeated the same thing for the other side. And leave the base out of it for now, just pin them together. Oh well, I did stitch it. Yeah, So this is the back. I repeated the same technique for the back, and it's time for me to couple it with the fabric. So I went ahead to pin. Okay, I pinned it and stitch. Make sure that as you're stitching, you leave ½ inch allowance at the center back edge for turning. Okay, make sure you don't start the placement of the yoke exactly at that point. You need to turn it, so I left ½ inch there. This is where notches are very important. When you're drafting your pattern, ensure that you notch points of intersection so you know where to place your yoke, okay, when you're sewing. And this front part is quite tricky. You have to be extra careful when sewing yoke on a sweater neckline. You have to follow the curves and make sure that the pins are in place so that it doesn't get stretchier than normal. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So the next thing I will be doing here, I went ahead to open it up to see if it is well stitched, of course, before I turn it with the lining, so that if there is any error, you can correct it immediately. So now next, I'm going to be coupling the lining and the fabric together, but here I'm showing you another sewing secret in case you want to have a fuller cup. This white thing I'm holding is called fiber. You can stuff it in between, you can stuff it on the lining, yes, on the lining cup, and then you just wrap Estee around it to make it fuller. Okay, that's if you want a fuller bra cup, but I'm not doing that here, but you know, I just needed to show you guys how it works. So before you sew the lining and the fabric together, make sure that you pin the yoke down very well so that it doesn't get into the way of the stitches, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Then I went ahead to pin. You pin from the center front first. It's very important for the sake of alignment, okay? And yeah, so I reduced all the bulky seams that can, you know, affect my sewing. Yeah. Like I've said before, pinning is very, very, very important. You can't do without it. So you can see I left the armpit piece open because, of course, sleeve is coming. Yeah. So I'm going to get my hemming gum. These are another sewing secret. Yeah. I used to top stitch. If I do not want to top stitch on my lining, I will just use my hemming gum so that by the time I'm pressing with iron, the iron presses the lining inward perfectly. So once I got to the point of the armpit for the back, I stopped. I skipped the armhole piece and then went to the front. Okay. So make sure that you're very careful while stitching the lining and the fabric together. Make sure that the edges of the lining and the fabric are equal. One must not be higher than the other. Yeah, that's it. So after that, I am going to stitch on the same line the second time. But before doing that, I needed to open it up, turn it to the right side to check if the yoke is sitting perfectly in between the lining and the fabric. If there is any error at this point, I'll have to correct it. But you know, as Odogu now, there was no error. So I went ahead to stitch the second time. Don't know what is above mistake. Yeah. So I went ahead to stitch the second time. Okay, because I needed to trim off the seam allowance to reduce bulk, and that's also because I'm not going to. So after stitching the neckline, I stitched the center back as well twice, okay, the lining and the fabric together, and then I trim off the seam allowance. Okay, so I turned it to the right side, and then I stitched the space for my lacing bar, okay, ½ inch from the edge, another ½ inch for space for the eyelet, and then I did so another ½ inch for the second boning. The second boning is optional, completely optional, but I always like to do it for, you know, for beauty purpose. And after doing that, I went ahead to insert my boning, but before the boning we need to create the modesty panel. So for the modesty panel, I'll be using the length of the center back to create that. I had 12 inches. The width at the base is 3.5 inches with allowance. I measured 12 inches upward, and then the width at the top is going to be 4.5. So that's length 12, the base 3.5, the top 4.5 inches. So when you open it up, you have 9 at the top, 7 at the base, and then 12 for the length. So I went ahead to use the pattern to cut a soft wording. I usually make use of collar stay, but I ran out of that. I use the soft wording as an alternative. Okay, so I went ahead to trim off the edges so that I can balance with the pattern. Okay, after that I took off allowances from the wording because I only want the allowances on the main fabric. Remember, while drafting the pattern, I did cut it together with the allowances. So the actual width for the base is 6 for the base, and then the top is 8 inches. Okay, so remember that there is an allowance on the main fabric. So as you can see here, I have pasted the soft wording on the fabric, and then stay on one side. I cut 2 pieces of that fabric. Stay went on one side, on both sides, and then the wording went on the other side, and I stitch the allowance all round and turn it out. So I didn't stitch the base. Okay, so here I'm making use of a bias tape I created from the crepe fabric to tape the base. Okay, because of course you have to turn the whole thing out from one side, and that has to be the base. So this is my way of closing it up. So all of this thing, make sure that it's the same length with the center back. Okay, so after doing that, I stitched the line and the fabric together, leaving the space for the boning, okay, at the center back. That's the boning for the lacing bar. Yeah, because I'm going to be inserting plastic boning there. So after stitching together, I ensure that both center back are at a balance, both of them are equal, and then I trim off the uneven edges of the base. Now, before I tape the edge of the corset itself, I needed to insert my boning. So I'm working with plastic boning. I like to work with plastic boning, of course, because it's very rigid. So before inserting the boning, I went ahead to stitch the modesty panel. It became so bulky and almost didn't want to enter my presser foot. So I was able to find my way in there. And stitching, make sure you don't stitch completely to the end because of taping the edge of the corset. Then I went ahead to insert my boning. Always start the insertion of the boning from the left, not from the right, to make it easy for you. So after doing that for both sides, make sure that your boning does not get to the actual length of the center back because it's plastic and not sewable. So I always leave like 1 inch away from the edge. Then I went ahead to use my Mikado fabric to tape the edge of the corset, the hem basically. So make sure you give it a perfect and neat finishing. It is better to cut the strip of fabric on a bias grain line. I ran out of fabric, so that is why you can see that it was folding somehow. That's because I didn't cut it on a straight grain. So after doing this, I went ahead to create my sleeve. If you want me to show you the tutorial of this sleeve design, let me know in the comment section so I can put up a video on it. Okay, I believe if you are somebody who grab very fast, you can actually understand from this short clip. So I went ahead to add my sleeve, and now before I show you the final look, I want to announce to you that someone's screen is breaking tonight. Ask me who. That person that is not going to like or subscribe to this channel. If you're not liking this video, you're not subscribing to this channel, and you watch up to this point, your screen will break. Trust me. That was a JK anyway. Now look at the beauty in front of your screen. Don't you like what you're seeing? It's giving classy. It's giving beauty. Look at that. Look at your full package fashion teacher. So I went ahead to pair it up with a pant trouser, and then I also made a skirt from the Mikado fabric. I put up the pictures on Instagram for people to vote, and they voted more for the pants. Okay, and I think I love it more as well. Yes, this is one of the pant trousers I need. If you want to learn how to make a perfect trouser like this, you can as well, take my online courses. I have a full trouser masterclass where I taught various type of trousers. So guys, that will be all for this particular tutorial. Please, the only way you can help this channel grow is by watching the video. Give it a full-time watch. Do not fast forward. Subscribe and like the video for us to be more visible to other people that our tutorials would benefit. So guys, that will be all. If you have anything to say in the comment section, compliments, suggestion, critiques, anything, just drop it in the comment section, and you can also drop your request. Your full package fashion teacher will definitely come true. Okay guys, so that will be all for this video. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Yeah, my next class.